They should not have aired this interview, you guys. People magazine did Hayden Panettiere dirty by releasing this interview. We're going to talk about this viral interview and about Hayden's tragic upbringing as a child star and how this People interview fits into the broader conversation everybody is having about celebrity culture today.
I mean, he was my only sibling and he was my younger sibling, and it was my job to protect him. I felt like I lost half of my soul.
This exclusive People interview with Hayden has been going viral, and the subject matter was Hayden healing from her younger brother's sudden death that took place last year unexpectedly. Hayden's brother, Jansen Panettiere, died suddenly in February 2023, and at the time of his death, the cause of his death was unknown, and it was announced everywhere, and it said that his death was currently being investigated. He was only 28 years old. He acted in series like Even Stevens. He was also in season 9 of The Walking Dead, and this came as sudden news, of course, to Hayden and everybody else. And then this year, in September of this year, Hayden opens up and said that her younger brother Jansen died unexpectedly of an enlarged heart. So apparently he had an undiagnosed heart condition last year, and that's what caused his sudden death. She said it was her only sibling. It was her job to protect him. And she said she feels like she lost half of her soul. And she said after his death, her body started reacting in really weird ways and her body sort of ballooned. She said the stress and the cortisol made her gain a bunch of weight and made her appearance look really different. And of course, being followed by the paparazzi made her not want to leave the house at all. She said, I had to see horrific paparazzi pictures of myself coming out of Jansen's funeral, which happened in a very private place, and it was shocking. She said, my agoraphobia came out, which is something I've struggled with in the past. She said, I didn't feel confident to put on clothes and get out of the house. And then she went on in this interview to talk about how she was wearing just sweatpants and she just felt like she needed to stay inside all the time. Now, of course, this is a tragic story. It's difficult to lose a sibling no matter how old you are, especially if you're really close to them. But the subject matter is not what is sparking everybody's interest. People cannot look away from this interview because it's not what she's saying. It's how she looks when she's saying it. There is something significantly off. This is not the Hayden Panettiere that we have all known for so many years. And she just looks like she is, quite frankly, not sober.
Beautiful, and she can't just like me. I mean, talk about nature versus nurture. I mean, this little girl literally came out.
She's not okay. Look at her face. Look at her face. Look at her eyes. They're sunken in. She's clearly medicated. And if you can see the photo here at the bottom, they put a photo of what Hayden used to look like. I mean, aside from, let's assume it's pretty clear she's gotten some work done on her face. Aside from that, her eyes are like, she's just like not home. She's not there. She's obviously medicated.
It was more of like a Christmas special thing. And she was more concerned about directing the kid.
Yeah, so her eyes are glazed over. It looks like she's numb. And if you look at the entire interview, I obviously can't show the whole thing for copyright. If you watch it, she's just completely like slumped in her chair. Her arms are not moving at all. I watched it twice because I really wanted to see her body language after I listened to what she was saying and looked at her face. I was like, I want to go through this again and look at her body language. Her arms like do not move. Usually when people speak, they use their arms and their hands somehow. She is totally still. It looks like she is almost frozen. And that, to me, that looks like someone who's heavily medicated. I don't think she's drunk. I don't think she's had a few shots before she did this interview, but she's obviously heavily medicated. We don't know if it's something like SSRIs, although as far as I know, SSRIs don't slur your speech like this, especially when diagnosed appropriately. It could be heavy pain meds. It could be opioids. I mean, we know that we're going to get into it in a little bit, but we know that Hayden has struggled with addiction in the past. This was just 2 years ago. People magazine reported that Hayden Panettiere reveals addiction to opioids and alcohol. Quote, I was in a cycle of self-destruction. And I'll be honest, I did not know that Hayden struggled with addiction until I saw this viral interview and I did a little bit of a deep dive. I didn't know. I hadn't really followed this about her story. I just know that she had a child when she was in her 20s. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So in this 2022 2022 interview, she says that she had this secret addiction to opioids and alcohol that nearly cost her career and cost her life. She said she was on the top of the world. She was starring in the show Nashville, but she spent years battling addiction, and she had a really bad bout of postpartum depression. And so in this 2022 interview with People, not surprisingly, they brought her back for another interview 2 years later. She opens up about sobriety and happiness. But as I was watching this interview, I have to say, even if I hadn't seen this recent 2024 interview, she did not seem like somebody to me that was like fully recovered. And I know as an addict, they say you'll never, ever fully recover, but she did not seem to me like she was in a good place. In this 2022 interview, she says that she was drinking alcohol a lot and she was taking a lot of these pills, and she was introduced to a happy pill. I'll show a clip of that in a second, when she was just a teenager. And she said this character that she was playing in Nashville, I've never seen the show, but apparently this character also struggled with addiction and this heavy subject matter. And she said there was basically like no reprieve. She would play this really complex, complicated addict, and then she would be on set, however, 10, 12 hours a day and have to go home. And there was really kind of like no separation between this character and her real life. Now, this is not uncommon for someone who was a child star. If you didn't know, Hayden Panettiere started acting when she was a kid, and she revealed a couple years ago to People that she got her first acting job when she was 11 months old. 11 months old. She started appearing in commercials, and then she was later in a soap opera. And I mean, my favorite role of Hayden Panettiere was her role in Remember the Titans. And she was just a kid. I think she was maybe like 9 years old, but she played the daughter of the coach who was trying to get into the Hall of Fame, and everyone knows the story of Remember the Titans. But she has always been in Hollywood from a very young age, very much like somebody like Amanda Bynes. And so it's extremely common for child stars to go through this career and then get into adulthood or even in their teenage years and struggle with addiction. It's like pretty rare if a child star doesn't have this experience. And then there was a lot of information coming out about Hayden's home life. And I didn't know this until like 2 days ago. She grew up in a very toxic, abusive home. Allegedly, her father would beat her. Allegedly, her father would get into bed with her. And her mother was too scared to do anything about it because apparently her mother was being beaten as well. So she has had a very, very tragic life. And then you couple all of that with being a child star, it's very, very likely that somebody like this is going to struggle with addiction big time. So you see here the tragic details about Hayden Panettiere's life. She rose to international acclaim for her perky cheerleader role in the classic Heroes. I remember that show, and that's when she was also dating her co-star Milo Ventimiglia. And then she went on to be pop star Juliet Barnes. But what people don't know about Hayden is, first, as a child, she was bullied relentlessly. And that, of course, is going to have a massive impact on you as you keep growing older. And she said school was absolute torture when she was young. And of course, she struggled with child stardom and body dysmorphia, very, very common for child stars. I mean, child stars like Demi Lovato and Selena Gomez have talked about that as well. But really, the big thing that stands out to me is the abuse that came from her father. So when she was, I don't know how old she was, but in 2008, her father was arrested for reportedly violently assaulting Hayden's mother. And according to a sergeant, Alan felt that his wife, Leslie Panettiere, had disrespected him while the couple was at a party in the early hours of the morning. So there was a domestic argument. He got upset, struck the mother in the face, which caused some bruising. And from what this sergeant was told, he hit her with a closed fist. So he punched his wife in the face. Okay. He was charged with misdemeanor battery. Alan pleaded no contest, but was spared jail. He was sentenced to just 2 years probation for the assault, and it was made to undergo domestic violence counseling. And then, not surprisingly, later, her parents were going through a divorce, and Hayden was very sadly stuck in the middle. And that will seriously scar you for life. Whether you're 5 years old or 15 years old, if you are in the middle of your parents' really contentious divorce battle, that's going to have significant impacts on you. She was 18 years old and at the height of her success, thanks to her role in Heroes. And this should have been a happy time, but she found herself wedged between her parents and having to foot the bill when her mom and dad suffered the financial ramifications of their divorce. So reportedly, her mother was left penniless and homeless. Hayden allowed her mom to move in with her rent-free. And she dished out $100,000 to her deadbeat father, who also struggled financially in the aftermath of their separation. And when the divorce was finalized in 2016, Alan was ordered to pay back all the money he owed his daughter. And then, of course, there's the substance abuse that followed that. Not surprising at all. She was in the industry and exploited from a very, very young age. And I mean, people, when we see child stars, I think on the surface, we're taught to think like, oh, wow, this is so cute. Ha ha ha. They're, they get to act and make a lot of money when they're young. But the truth is child stardom, it seriously ruins people, because one thing that you cannot buy and one thing that every child deserves is an actual childhood. Every child deserves to experience the innocence of childhood, and that is ripped away from you when you're a child star. For example, look at Amanda Bynes here. This picture was from 2010, and then the most recent picture of her in 2024. I shared this before and after photo on my Instagram a few weeks ago, and people were asking me earnestly, is that photo edited? They were like, is this a joke? That's not Amanda Bynes. That has to be edited. And I said, no, this is actually her. She posted selfies like this. She was posting videos about how she was going to become some sort of nail esthetician, some nail technician. And she just does not look good. And, all of the debacle about Britney Spears and the conservatorship, you look at someone like Amanda Bynes and still Britney, and you kind of understand why these people are under a conservatorship. I mean, I remember Amanda Bynes. I remember the later movies before she sort of retired from acting. She was even in Easy A. That was like a more recent one. I think that was in 2012 or something like that. She was very funny. She was very talented. Amanda Bynes was a really talented little actress and a little comedian when she was young. So this stuff happens to child stars, and it's not surprising at all that Hayden herself was thrust into stardom at such a young age, and then she was eventually struggling with substance abuse. I mean, did you guys see that Nickelodeon documentary series? I forgot what it's called, but it covers the abuse that happened to these child stars like, what's his name? Drake Bell. Drake Bell came forward and told the story about how he was assaulted and abused for many years. The documentary series is called Quiet on Set. And Amanda Bynes was obviously not a part of this, but she was on that set. So there are a lot of speculations as to how she was abused and how she was assaulted. Probably how she was given drugs. We don't know for sure because it wasn't confirmed in this particular series. But the point is, child stars like Amanda Bynes and Hayden Panettiere, they're given drugs at a very young age. So here she's going to talk about how she was given the happy pill by somebody who represented her in the industry when she was only 15 years old.
Example, I had somebody that I was supposed to work with, I was working with, who represented me. And she introduced me at 15 years old to the happy pill. I had absolutely no idea at that time what, really drugs were or addiction was. And she would give me this happy pill before.
So she was given this happy pill so she would be all smiley and perky and perform her best for the cameras, given to her by somebody who was meant to represent her. This is crazy. So of course, Hayden goes on to have an identity crisis. In that same interview, that was a People interview from 2022. She talks about how she really just ended up at a point in her life where she just didn't know who she was. In 2014, Hayden was only 25 years old, and she gave birth to her daughter Kaya with her then boyfriend, boxer Vladimir Klitschko. And I thought they were really cute together. I remember them being together, and when her daughter was born, it was a very beautiful, happy time, of course. But she struggled with a lot of postpartum depression. And that was, of course, mixed in with the addiction issues. And in this People interview of 2022, she says she wasn't really sure where the postpartum depression ended and the addiction started. It felt like it was all sort of welded together and it was all sort of the same thing. So she said in an interview in 2023 that she had heard stories about postpartum depression, but she didn't really know what it was because she wasn't taught how to identify it. So she thought to herself, alcohol will fix this, duh. And it didn't. It does for a moment, but then it made everything worse. And then she said her relationship with Vladimir significantly suffered. And she said that he believed she was responsible for her postpartum depression. And so this is when the interview in 2022 came out with Red Table Talk. So if you don't know Red Table Talk, I don't know if they still have it going. They probably do. Jada Pinkett Smith and her daughter, and they may have a different host or two on there, and Jada Pinkett Smith's mother, they will interview various celebrities. And in 2022, Hayden went on Red Table Talk and she talked about giving up custody of her child and how it was a difficult decision because when Kaya was only 4 years old, they split up. Hayden and Vladimir split up. And the custody went to Vladimir and he took Kaya to Ukraine. That's where he's from. And this is when I believe Hayden's PR team was really spinning a story to sort of make Hayden not necessarily like a victim, but to have people garner a lot of sympathy for her. But the truth is that she was really, really struggling with addiction. And she signed the papers herself. It wasn't something like she didn't know what was going on. It was thrust upon her. This was obviously a decision that she made with Vladimir. And they decided that the best place for Kaya was to move away with him because Hayden was she was not healthy. She was not well. Struggling with addiction is one thing. It's a whole different ballgame when you're struggling with addiction when you have a small child in the house. So in this episode of Red Table Talk, she talked about how her substance use disorder that had begun in her teens was really starting to have an impact on the family. And Vladimir said, if Vladimir had come to me and said, I think because of where you're at right now and your struggles, what you're having, it would be good for her to be over here with me for a while. She said, I had probably had enough of a conversation. I would have said, okay, that makes sense. I get it. I'll come there to visit and stuff like that. She said, because of the way that it was done, it was very upsetting. I mean, it was the worst signing those papers, the most heartbreaking thing I've ever had to do in my life. She said, I was going to go work on myself. I was going to get better. And when I got better, then things would change and she would come to me and I could have my time with her. But that didn't happen. So this whole interview was a sort of, it wasn't a mea culpa. You know, sometimes the PR spin will be a sort of mea culpa where that was what Brad Pitt did whenever he split up with Angelina Jolie. And then he went on that. He took some time away from the press, then came back and did all the press hits and interviews. And he went down the mea culpa route, like admitting what he was wrong and saying that he really had stuff to work on. I wouldn't say that Hayden necessarily went mea culpa on this one. She made it sound like, I feel like the PR people made it sound like it was sprung on her and there were things that Vladimir did wrong. But if you really take a step back and look at the whole picture, what it seems to me is that Vladimir made the best decision for this child. A 4-year-old should not be in a home where a mother is struggling with addiction. Look, this is heartbreaking stuff. Okay, this is incredibly heartbreaking. I would not want to see this happen to any family, regardless of whether you're a celebrity or not. And she said in that interview in Red Table Talk in 2022 that her daughter went around asking women if she could call them mommy. That's what Vladimir told her after they were separated. And he thought it was funny, but this is a trauma response. The child going around, can I call you mommy? That is a trauma response. And so she was talking about this in the interview, and it's kind of sounded like she was trying to paint her husband in a kind of less than desirable light. But it's very rare for husbands to get full custody. I mean, we know that. The family courts almost always favor the mother. The mother has to be going through something really difficult, like substance abuse, in order for the dad to get full custody. And in the meantime, Hayden was not really doing well. She had this new boyfriend, Brian. There was this huge thing that happened in 2022 where there was a massive bar brawl. And her boyfriend, Brian Hickerson, got into a fist fight and they were fighting with people outside the Sunset Marquise. There was a large group of people. Security had to break it up. And you could hear her in the video yelling at him to stop, because he was apparently on probation. And it was a pretty wild scene. So this was definitely part of the story that led up to her daughter being taken away from her, because Hayden and Brian certainly have a tumultuous history, according to TMZ. He's been arrested for domestic violence and assault for alleged attacks against Hayden. And there were rumors that she was also fighting back, and that's part of the whole, trauma response because she was allegedly beaten as a child. It's just a huge mess here. I mean, Hayden clearly has a troubled past because of her abuse as a child and being a child star. So this all leads us to the People interview today. This PR move trying to thrust her into the spotlight to talk about her brother's death, I don't know what they were trying to do here. You can tell me in the comment section, what do you think they were trying to do here? Because she was obviously very heavily medicated. She's not sober. She is not doing well. She does not belong in front of cameras. But you know what? When I was watching this, I said to myself, this is Hollywood. This is exactly what Hollywood does. We look at celebrities and we think to ourselves, they're so glamorous, they're so beautiful, they have a whole team of stylists and trainers and nutritionists and private chefs, and their life is so beautiful. But most of the time, in almost every single case, these celebrities are pawns. They are controlled by their team, by their PR team, by the industry, by the system. They're controlled to emit a certain message and give a certain image to fans and to followers. And so when I see child stars like Hayden Panettiere, Amanda Bynes, whoever else who come forward and they're forced into the spotlight, she was clearly kind of like forced to do this interview. She's not healthy. She's not well. And when I look at videos like this, I say to myself, I don't know why anybody listens to celebrities when it comes to making life decisions, when it comes to who to vote for, because all of the celebrities that we think are amazing and that people love, they are controlled. They're controlled. They are not fully in charge of their own life. They're not fully autonomous. They have to answer to this very predatory industry. And so I'm watching this video at the same time we're watching all of these celebrities come forward and endorse Kamala and very few of them endorse Trump, whatever it is. Taylor Swift made this big thing. Billie Eilish. Did you guys see the Billie Eilish video of her and her brother endorsing Kamala?
Today is National Voter Registration Day, and we are asking you to please join us in going to iwillvote.com to check your status and vote early like we do.
We are voting for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz because they are fighting to protect our reproductive freedom, our planet, and our democracy.
We can't let extremists control our lives, our freedoms, and our future. The only way to stop them and the dangerous Project 2025 agenda is to vote and elect Kamala Harris.
Vote like your life depends on it, because it does.
This looks like a hostage situation to me. It does. And they're obviously reading off of a teleprompter. They've been given a script. These people are controlled by the industry. How much were they paid to do this? Okay, if they're obviously given something, they're either forced to do it or they're paid to do it, or it's a little bit of both. But this reminds me of of that video of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard when they were married and they went to Australia however many years ago, and they brought in their dogs to the country without declaring them at customs because they flew private. And that is a huge no-no, especially in countries like Australia, because they have a very delicate ecosystem and they don't allow animals and food to just be brought into the country willy-nilly. But Johnny Depp and his then wife Amber Heard were like, whatever, we're going to bring our dogs in and not declare them. Australia basically detained them and forced them to read an apology online for the world to see.
Australia is a wonderful island with a treasure trove of unique plants, animals, and people.
It has to be protected.
Australia is free of many pests and diseases that are commonplace around the world. That is why Australia has to have such strong biosecurity laws.
And Australians are just as unique, both warm and direct. When you disrespect Australian law, they will tell you firmly.
This is the same energy to me. Same energy as Billie Eilish and her brother getting in front of the camera, trying to be serious and telling you to vote for Harris and Walz. Do you see what I'm saying, you guys? These celebrities are the last people that we should be listening to when it comes to making life decisions, and definitely when it comes to who we should be voting for. And Jennifer Lopez came out to endorse Kamala Harris.
Yes!
Yay, Jennifer Lopez. Yes, the woman who's been divorced 5 times now. She was a longtime girlfriend of Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Sean Combs, whatever he goes by now. But yeah, let's listen to her about who to vote for. And you know what? It really annoys me when the other side does it too. Now, there are very few celebrities that will come forward and support Trump, but it is just as cringe when the Republicans do it too. And this is what really annoys me. When conservatives will make fun of the liberals for propping up certain celebrities, like even Bryan Cranston came forward to endorse Kamala Harris. Conservatives will make fun of the liberals for bringing up celebrities. But then when there's that one rogue celebrity that supports Trump and wants to vote for conservatives, the conservatives will prop them up at like the RNC. They brought up Amber Rose and they were like, yay, a black lady really likes us and she's famous and she was a rapper's girlfriend. Let's put her on stage at the RNC. It is just as cringe. You can't make fun of the other side for promoting celebrities, for supporting them, and then do the same thing when a celebrity supports you. It is cringe and stupid on both sides. Celebrities are controlled pawns by the system and by the industry. You will never be able to change my mind on that. The only reason that they get to A-list stardom is because they obey the rules, because they do what they're told, because they say the right script, and because they go along with whatever the PR plan is. And Hayden Panettiere's interview with People just confirms that. It just confirms that these celebrities are the last people we should be listening to for anything, especially regarding who to vote for. I think this whole Hayden situation is extremely sad, just like what's happening to Amanda Bynes. Now, I will say this, Hayden seems to be in much better shape than Amanda Bynes is. We don't know if Hayden's situation is going to get worse. It seems like she at least is involved in her daughter's life now. She was talking about going to her daughter's school play. I'm happy that she gets to be in her daughter's life, and that's at least better than Amanda Bynes' fate as of now. But these child stars are not doing okay. And even if you're not a child star, if you're somebody like Jennifer Lopez, she's been in the industry since she was like 20 years old. Yeah, you don't get to that level of fame unless you do what you're told. So no, both sides, liberals, conservatives, whoever you are, let's stop promoting celebrities as the ones to tell us who to vote for. You are the last people that I'm going to listen to about who to vote for. You are so out of touch. Let's talk about during the pandemic of 2020, all the celebrities were like, stay at home. And they were reading all the cards, all the teleprompters and telling us what to do. It's not that hard. Stay inside. Yeah, it's easy for you, because you have a private chef and you have somebody doing your shopping for you and you have a pool and a mansion that you can just hang out in and you don't really need to work. No, they're so out of touch. They're controlled. They are elitist and they're the last people that we should be listening to. That's my rant. That's it. But getting back to Hayden, I do feel bad for her. I do hope she finds full recovery because this interview proves that she's not recovered. And that this should have never been aired. I cannot believe that people aired this and got away with it. And if you look at the comment section, everybody in the comments are like, is Hayden okay? This seems really unhealthy. This seems really unfair. This seems very exploitative. Like she should not have been put in front of a camera. Slurred speech, eyes out of focus, body totally limp. Something's going on here. So tell me what you guys think in the comment section. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Share the video if you liked it. Let me know in the comment section what topics you want me to cover next time. And we'll see ya. Bye.